Hey guys, it's Mr. Jackson, and I'm going to show you the first few things that you need to know to get started on the bass. We're going to start by getting the instrument out of the case, which is very important that you do it right for two reasons. Number one, it's made out of wood, so it's very delicate. And number two, it's big. This thing is very large. So please make sure you're taking care even when you're just getting it out of the case, because I've seen things go wrong. One thing to make sure before you even start to get the instrument out of the case, check out this long bow case that's right here and make sure you don't have a bow in there. If you do and you try to take the bass out, it's very possible that the bow could get broken. Your bow won't be in the case for right now. So you're going to start by taking these zippers. There's a zipper on either side of the end pin. You're going to take the one down here, unzip that. Now, if you've laid the bass correctly, there's the zipper that you're seeing goes all the way up to the top. If the zipper stops to about here, you need to flip it over on the other side. It's upside down. So I've undone that zipper. I'm going to undo this zipper. And I'm just going to let it open up. Just kind of let it sit open like this so that everything can be reached. All right. Now I'm going to move things to the side so you can see from a different angle. So I don't know if you can see it, but the scroll is still a little bit inside the case on this side. So we'll need to pick it up very carefully and slide it out that way before we take it out completely. So one hand is right here at the base of the neck, nice and strong. The other hand is on the lower bout, and as best you can, try to get this free, and then just take it and pull it out, and set the bass aside for a moment. Close up the case, and set it aside. We're done with that for right now. Okay, so now the next thing you need to know is how long does the end pin need to be for you? Well, that's a very personal thing, and we need to figure that out. So I'm going to get myself a stool, and I'll show you. So when you play bass, you want to be on a stool that is both higher. Let me pull this up. A stool that is both higher than the average chair. You see the height differences here. And also one that has rungs. There's a rung right here that I can rest my foot on. We're going to talk about why in just a moment, but let me raise this up so you can see a little bit better. Okay? So I'm going to set this chair aside. I don't need it. I'm not a cello player. I'm a bass player. Okay. So now that I'm on my bass stool, I am not going to be in mirror image of you, so it's very important that you keep that in mind. This is my left foot, but your right foot is going to be on this side. So you're going to do things opposite of what you see me do. So my left foot, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to put it on the bottom rung of this stool. So my right foot is on the ground, left foot is on the rung, so I have this little flat spot right here on my knee. Okay? So that's how I'm going to sit anytime I'm playing the bass. So to estimate how long the bass end pin needs to be before we can figure things out, I usually just estimate the width of 2 fists. So if you can see on the side of the end pin, there's a little screw that you can turn just to the left, a little turn, and now I can slide the end pin. Oh man, this end pin is really sticky. If you need to kind of twist it or whatnot, you can. So I'm going to have from the base of the end pin, I'm going to pull it out to where it's about the width of 2 fists. Then I'm going to take the little tightening screw, and I'm going to make it, not as tight as humanly possible, but we don't want this moving while we play. Okay? So, just like we're taking it out of the case, I'm going to hold it with the base of the neck here, and at the lower bout, And I'm just going to stand it up on the end pin carefully. We never want to slam it down. Always careful. Let me readjust the camera here. Okay. So now, you want the base, the end pin to be on the floor just a few inches in front of your toes. Just a few inches in front of your toes, so that it comes at you at an angle. If you look at me from the side, it's not straight up and down. It does lean just a bit. We don't want it way out there. That's more of a cello thing. Okay. So I can already tell that my height requires this end pin to be a little bit longer. I'm not sure if you can see from that camera angle, but if you look at the peg box and the scroll, my face is about the same height as the peg box. What we want is the end of the fingerboard to be about the height of my hairline. So I'm going to just guess. I'm going to lay the base down, loosen the screw, pull out the end pin just a few inches or so, tighten it again. I know this process can kind of be tedious, but once we have it set, it doesn't change. Okay? All right, now this is much better. So right here, the end of the fingerboard is about where my hairline is. And now whenever I play, my hand is going to be about the height of my face, okay? We won't worry about our left hand right now, though. So again, I am not a mirror image of you. If you are looking at me like I'm a mirror image, this is how you should look. The bass should be over here on this side, and this leg over here should be on the rung, okay? Now this is what it should look like when you look in the mirror. Now I'm going to go back because this feels very weird. All right, so with the end pin at the right place, so if you need to, pause, adjust it up and down as many times as you need to until you have the end of the fingerboard about the height of your hairline right there. Okay? So your left hand, again, your left hand is this one. Just rest it on the shoulder. You don't have to do anything with it right now. Your right hand, I want you to make a fist, and I want you to poke your thumb out and point your thumb at your belly button, just like that, okay? Kind of like you're checking your watch if people had watches. You know, people don't have watches much anymore. But poke your thumb out towards your belly button, and I want you to place your thumb on the side of the fingerboard, and you'll have a little dot right here on the side that you'll place your thumb right there. We don't want it, a little closer so you can see more detail. We do not want the thumb to be behind the fingerboard for two reasons. Number one, it just doesn't set up your hand shape very well. But number two, you can actually, if you pull, this fingerboard will come off. It's just glued on. It's not held on by screws or extra strength nails or anything like that. So on the side with your thumb pointed at your belly button. Now with your other fingers all tucked in and just nice and relaxed, your first finger is going to poke out, and I want you to reach away from your thumb and find the string that's farthest away from your thumb. Now if you look at the shape of my arm. My arm is not up against my rib. My wrist isn't up like this. It should be nice and open. This is the good position for this string. Now this is your G. Play G 3 times by pulling and then letting it go. Ready? 1, 2, G 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now go one string closer to your thumb. This one is D. Pluck D 4 times. Ready? 1, 2. Ready, go, and 2, 3, 4. Okay. That D note, by the way, is the same D that's the D on the staff that we've been practicing a lot these past few weeks. Now go one string closer to your thumb. Notice as I get closer to my thumb, my elbow relaxes just a little bit, but we will never get here. We never go straight up against our ribs. We always want a little bit of space here. So G, D, now the next string is A. Play A 4 times. 1, 2, ready, A, go. And then the big one, the biggest string of the entire orchestra is this lowest one, and that's E. Play E 4 times. 1, 2, ready, E, go. All right, so to review, your thumb goes on the side of the fingerboard with your thumb pointing back at your belly button. All of your fingers are in like this. They're not poking out except for your first finger. So your thumb and your first finger are out. And this is how you pluck. Now, you want to make sure that your hand is shaped like that, where you're kind of looking back at the back of your hand. That's correct. If you find yourself poking your first finger, pointing your first finger back at yourself, or going even further and poking and rotating your hand to where you're pointing up, that is bad technique. And the reason why we want to have our hand like that is because eventually we're going to be using a bow for these strings, and this is how we use the bow. And now if you look at the shape of my hand, that's how we can prepare for that before we even use the bow. All right? So G, farthest away from your thumb, then D, then A, then right next to your thumb is the big baddie E. Hopefully you can hear it. It's so low. Okay? So make sure you're sitting tall when you play the bass, and your left foot is on the rung so that the bass can lean up against your left foot and your belly a little bit, but not lean up against your right foot. If you could see, my right foot is free, sitting on the ground just like that. Okay? Now let's talk about how to put it back in the case. A bad habit that I see some of my students get into, they will immediately reach down, loosen the end pin, and let gravity lower the bass to the ground. That is very, very bad for these instruments. Not only is it just bad technique, but if you let that happen, sometimes I have seen the end pin, the housing for the end pin, which is attached to the wood, actually come loose and break the wood, and it's trapped inside the bass. So you don't want to do that. Remember, these instruments are delicate. They're heavy. They're big, but that doesn't mean they're really, really sturdy. Right? So the first thing you do is you lay it down on the left side. Remember, I am not a mirror image of you. Lay it down on the left side, like so. And the rule is, you never take your bass, you never lay your bass down on its side without putting the end pin all the way in. All right, that's a rule. So before we loosen the end pin, we want to make sure we remember how long the end pin should be. So for me, all I have to do is just take my thumb and my pinky out. That's about the length that is for you. If you're like just your thumb out or whatever. If you want to be a little extra, you can take out a ruler and figure out exactly how long that is. That's okay. If you take a marker and mark the end pin, that's fine, but a lot of these metal end pins that'll rub off pretty quick. So you want to be able to find that without necessarily marking it. Okay, once you know what that is, take the little loosening screw, just a little turn till it's loose, then slide the end pin back in. Be careful not to slam it, and then tighten it back up. You don't need to make this tight, just as long as it's not going to fall out. Okay? Now I'm going to set this aside so I can prepare the case. We want the case to be laying the same way it was whenever we got the bass out of it. So, open just like that, and if you'll notice, yeah, you can see it. There's a front to the case, a back to the case, and then there's this little flat spot, this little channel. That's where you want the ribs to go. But we're going to start by putting the end pin, sliding it right in to this pocket. So I'm going to hold the bass with my left hand on the base of the neck, my right hand firmly holding the lower bout, and I'm just going to dip the scroll into the spot as best I can. Then I set the bass down on that flat strip that's in the middle. And you want to make sure, like I said, that the bridge Actually, I don't know if I mentioned this. The bridge is on the same side as the bow case, the long bow case. If it's not, you have it going the wrong way and you need to flip it around. Okay, so once the scroll is in that part of the case, the rest is pretty easy. You just carefully, with one hand on the base, one side on, hold that in place. The other side, and you might need to kind of finagle it a little bit, move some things around. Then zip it all the way up this side. All the way up. Might take a little bit of finagling. Now watch here. I'm going to zip it up to the end of the end pin. I'm going to get it to where it meets the end pin, and I don't know if you can see it. So the end pin is actually poking out right here. So I zipped it down. I zipped it down until it got to that end pin. Then I'm going to take this zipper on the bottom. I'm going to zip it up to the other side of the end pin, and I'm just going to snug those zippers on either side like so. So you see the end pin is poking out of it. The reason for that is if you zip it up over the end pin, like some do, whenever you set it down like that, that end pin is going to actually put pressure on the zippers. And over time, over and over, that's going to cause the zipper to mess up and break. And then that's just going to cause frustration because you won't be able to get the case unzipped. You won't be able to play your bass. Okay? So hopefully this video was helpful. Go through this video every single time you get your instrument out of the case, just so you know you're doing it the right way and that you know that you set up for things correctly. Because like I said in class, if you don't set up in the right position in the beginning, the stuff that we do later, the cool stuff, the harder stuff, will be much harder without good position. It's just like I talked about with those elbows, the shape of your hand, the posture, the left leg on the rung, all those things. So you need to be a detail-oriented person whenever it comes to the bass. All right, see you later.